It's not as well known as Rio or Sao Paulo, but this city has some interesting sports venues nonetheless. Here are the stadiums and arenas of Porto Alegre, Brazil. Estádio José Pinheiro Borda, better known as Estádio Beira Rio. Translated into English, that is Riverside Stadium, which is a fitting name because not only is it close to the river, but it was actually built on land that was once a part of the river. It was underwater. The stadium was extensively redeveloped prior to the 2014 World Cup, where it hosted some games. The most notable addition was, of course, the wraparound roof canopy that's made from 65 interlocked leaves of PTFE, plastic. The roof lets in plenty of light but shelters all the seats from the rain. It also makes for a visually striking exterior, especially at nighttime. Wow. The seats were also replaced, but the seating bowl itself has remained fairly similar to how it was back in the day, which means that some of the character of the original stadium was retained. And that is a good thing, of course. Next door is Gigantino, which means Little Giant. An appropriate name because, yes, it's big, but not compared to the stadium next door, which is also known as Gigante de Beira Rio. It has a lot of names. This too is owned by Inter, and as you could probably have guessed, judging by the design of the roof, it's futsal rather than basketball that is the sport that's used for on a regular basis. It hosts a lot of concerts as well, of course. This looks like it's a Mickey Mouse concert. Gigantino is, after all, the biggest arena in the city. It may have capacity on its side, but it leaves a lot to be desired when it comes to the amenities. The Estádio Olímpico Monumental. I always love it when we get to feature an abandoned stadium in one of these videos. That is what we have here. It was home to Grêmio since it opened in the mid-50s until 2013, which means that it's been abandoned for over a decade now, yet it's still standing. The club still own the stadium, but they're not moving back in anytime soon. Instead, it is set to be demolished, and apartment buildings will be built in its place. I'd imagine the club supporters will only be slightly sad to see it go, because Grêmio now play at Arena do Grêmio, which is a bit of an upgrade, to put it lightly. The exterior is kinda interesting. It's partially comprised of a semi-transparent blue plastic, which is reminiscent of those early 2000s Macs. They really went in hard on the blue theme because the opening ceremony of the stadium included a performance by the Blue Man Group. I'm being serious. The Smurfs were gonna appear, but as you may have read in the news at the time, Papa Smurf was arrested at the airport for indecent exposure. He got his massive Smurf out and whacked it down on the security desk and said, "You're gonna need a bigger tray." Despite having opened in time for the 2014 World Cup, it didn't host any games. You wouldn't expect two host venues in a city of this size. During the flooding earlier in the year, hundreds of locals sheltered in this stadium. In the meantime, the club store was ransacked by looters. Scum. Estádio Passo da Areia. In English, Passo da Areia means the sand pass. It derives the name from the fact that it was built in an area with sandy soil. There was an artificial turf field installed in 2011, but the name still works because they probably used some sand in the infield. Also, the name isn't even talking about the field itself, so we're all good. In 2020, the stadium's official name was actually changed to Estádio Francisco Noveleto Neto, after a former president of the Rio Grande do Sul Football Federation. But I believe that most people stick with the old name, which is basically always the case with stadiums. It clearly is inferior to the other outdoor stadiums we've seen so far. Well, the non-abandoned ones. There's not even a video board here, so no slow-mo replays. But it is kinda cozy, I'll give it that. So there you have it. Just to cover myself from any potential lawsuits regarding Papa Smurf, I'll add an allegedly to that story. My favourite stadium of the lot would have to be Arena de Gremio. When you're feeling blue, Arena de Gremio is for you. Bubbity boo. Thanks for watching, have a good one.